I remember the first time I saw it. It freaked me out. You want me to put that homemade duct tape floppy garage sale lens in my expensive digital camera? Yeah, it was rough, but birth of a radical new idea always is. I saw the first prototype being built and have loved the Lensbaby ever since. Motorcycles get me out there, off the beaten path to photograph, and I love the unexpected images my Lensbaby creates. You have to work a little to master the lens, but if it was easy, everyone would be using it.
I've always been a fan of doing things a bit differently. Motorcycles allow me to reach my destination in a different way. When riding, I use all of my senses. I can smell the trees as I drive by and feel the air temperature change from the valleys to the hills. Using a Lensbaby lens, for me, is a lot like riding a motorcycle. It gives a heightened sense of emotion. Like riding a motorcycle, Lensbaby gives you options on reaching destinations you never imagined.
There's a cool local shop called Spoken Moto that is a combination custom motorcycle shop and brewery. We selected their space for our commercial portrait shoot because it had the hipster vibe we were looking for and lots of motorcycles. We decided to use Lensbaby lenses on our still and video cameras to show how versatile the lenses can be. Benjamin would be the director of photography for the video, and I'd handle the stills. Our shoot would happen in two parts, the first indoors and the second outside. This gives us a variety of locations for our story, different lighting scenarios to work with, and several fun setups for our writer. Hey guys, all right, so I kind of told you what we're going to be shooting today. So this is it's an ad for Velomaki. They make gear for motorcycles, right? Bags, things like that. And so what we want to do is we're going to tell a story of our model. She's got a custom bike, just made it. She's going to see it for the first time. She's coming into the shop. So it's a series of images that we'd use in, say, social media, maybe like post one a day on Instagram, the story that people follow, as it evolves. So the idea is that she comes in, she sees the bike, she's all excited, she's gonna get on the bike, we'll do some shots around the bike, kind of telling the story of how it evolves, that she gets the bike, and then she's gonna go on a ride tomorrow and her little weekend adventure by herself. So we're gonna use a variety of Lensbaby lenses on the shoot.
So why Lensbaby?
I like the Lensbaby because it has this dreamlike quality, and that's really what the shoot is all about. It's like every biker's fantasy to get a custom bike and take it out on the first ride. So in my mind, when I'm imagining this campaign, it's like this is a dream come true for a motorcycle rider, and that's what the Lensbaby does. It gives you these beautiful out of focus areas, kind of like in a dream state. Something's different. I'm not sure what it is. It's just dreamy feeling, and I like that. I think that's going to work well with this the context of the shoot we got going on. So we have a variety. I got a Twist 60. I'm going to play with that one. This one is a Composer Pro with a sweet 50mm lens in there, and then this is a beautiful Velvet 85. This is almost like a film-like feel. You can control the softness, the diffusion by changing the aperture on it. Give me a lot of options, and we'll kind of play with those for the different setups. Okay, any questions? You guys ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, ready.
All right, so let's go ahead and start setting up the lights over there. We're gonna put that grid light with the speed light down on the floor, right about there.
Okay, why are we using the speed light opposed to a different?
The speed lights are great because they're just portable, they're light, I can get through more shots in less time with that, and I also can control the power of the lights here, so that also helps me shoot a little quicker too, because I can, if it's a little bright, I just lower it here instead of having to run back and forth from the light. And for a room like this where it's kind of dark, we really don't need big power packs or anything like that, so that doesn't work great. So just point that at the back of the bike. All right, so Buck, we're gonna use this. You're gonna track the model with this, so she's gonna be kind of moving slightly, so you're gonna have kind of above, slightly off to the left. We got two speed lights in here so that I can recycle faster, so I can shoot boom, boom, boom as she's walking. It's kind of a blurry, it's kind of off the cuff kind of shot. So two speed lights means it recycles faster because I don't have to use as much power. Good. Is our model here yet? Anybody see the model? There she is. Hey, Bree, come on in. Right on. What'd you bring with you?
Got a helmet,
got all your gear, perfect.
Boot ideas.
So I'm gonna use the Twist 60 on this shot because it gives this really twisty, twirly, kind of interesting shapes to the highlights, which I love. So we're gonna follow her as she's walking in. Buck, you're gonna hold this light up. and you're gonna just track with me as I walk with her. So it's gonna be a motion shot, there's gonna be some blur in it, but we wanna freeze just a little bit of that with this flash. All right, so start walking that way right there. You're gonna be looking towards the bike and look over your shoulder to the left just a little bit, good. Little faster move, perfect, right there, good. Perfect, let's do that one more time.
As with other Lensbaby lenses, the effect is most obvious when you have your aperture wide open. With the Twist 60 in particular, you need specular highlights around the edges to twist, and good subject and background separation. The twist effect seems to give your images a sense of motion and dynamic energy that really works well with these walking shots. When all this comes together, the uniqueness of the lens really shines.
So we're gonna use the Twist 60. The highlights look really cool, kind of twisty on the edges, and then we'll light the bike up from the side here with a big scrim to give a nice soft wash of light across the bike, and light with the Luna Grip on this side up here. So I think that'll look really cool.
I asked my assistant to hold the Luna Grip light source rather than put it on a light stand, so he could move it actively as the model moved and angled her face. This helps keep the distance and direction of light consistent. I try to switch lenses often while I'm shooting to give myself a fresh perspective and a variety of options for the client.
This is the Velvet 85, and the 85 is a perfect portrait lens. And what I like about this one that's a little different than the Twist, it has a nice sharp center area, and then the edges are nice and diffused and kind of soft. And the cool thing about this is you focus at about 5/6 or at 4, and you can see really clearly what's sharp. And then as you open it up, you get more diffusion. See how her face is nice and soft now? It's almost like a soft focus lens, but not soft, just softer, glowy. Chin up towards this light right there, looking at the scrim. Buck, can you come in a little closer to her? There, good, let's try that.
You can see here how the Velvet 85 shows amazing skin glow at wide open, then the intensity of the glow lessens as you reduce the aperture. We switched back to the Twist 60 for a wider perspective and brought in Matt, the mechanic, to do a few more variations of her getting the lowdown on her new bike.
So right now I'm at an f4 so that I can focus. It's a little sharper at f4, it's easier to see the focus. And then I can zoom back out and open it up a little bit so we get the diffusion, and we'll shoot it there. But it's easier to focus at 4, 5, 6 first. So if you notice here, the out of focus areas on the edge, when I open this up, look at this really cool soft blur on the edges, and then just right in the center is nice and sharp and crisp, but there's still a soft kind of diffusion. When you shoot like f4 with this lens, it's really kind of a sweet spot of sharpness and diffusion at the same time. We'll try a little shot there. When you get that blurring on the edge, it's almost like you have less depth of field, like it's a faster aperture than it really is, you know? Yeah, I love these edges here, and everything just kind of fades away into a painterly look in the sides there. And once you lean forward on one elbow onto the handlebar there, onto the tank or something, yeah. Good, I like that. Chin up that way.
The Velvet 85 again shows its versatility, going from a Hollywood glamour look to crisp and film-like with a simple change in aperture.
Okay, great, you guys. We wrapped it tonight. Tomorrow we're gonna go outside and do some of you riding the bike, but it's gonna be a very different setup. We'll get to try a new lens. Maybe I've got a Sweet 50, which we'll use out there in addition to some of the ones we used already. And we'll mix some of the daylight with the flash. So that'll be another challenge for us to work with, and the motion tracking as you ride too. So you up for that tomorrow?
Cool.
Okay, cool. Thanks guys, let's wrap it up.
At the end of the night, we knocked out 4 of the 5 planned setups, which is pretty good, considering I always aim to overshoot a little. The first part of our mini story was complete, and now we were all looking forward to some moto action the next day.
Now I'm rolling.
As we had hoped, it was nice and sunny, and my plan was to use the sun as a backlight, balancing the light on Bree's face with my speed light and a Luna Grip. The bright sun gave me a unique challenge that I was prepared to accept.
Angie, can I get the ND filter? Yeah, that's it, thank you. So I'm using the Twist 60 on this one, and normally the twist makes the edges, when there's detail on the edges, it kind of, you know, swirls them out, but you don't always have to have super swirly. It's still vignettes, it gives a really nice softening on the edges. So I think it'll work to help pop the subject out, you know, it makes a little more dimension. Even though you don't get that super swirliness, it still looks cool. So that's, we'll try that. All right, so let's get Bree in here.
When I want to shoot outside and combine natural light with my flash, one of my favorite tricks to use is to throw a variable neutral density filter on my lens. It may not make sense at first, but by using the ND filter, I can adjust my ambient light so that the shutter speed is at or below my sync speed. This enables the flash to give the most power output it's capable of, which is important especially when you're using a flash modifier like the Lunagrip or a softbox. With the ND filter set to give me a slower shutter speed, I can use a wider f-stop, even in full sun, giving me shallow depth of field and also maximizing the unique Lensbaby look.
How's your hair, everybody? Nobody's gonna tell you you look bad.
You guys have to.
For our next scene, we drove out to the desert to capture some shots of Bree riding from the back of my truck.
All right, so for this one, we're gonna use a Sweet 50. So this isn't a Composer Pro body. So this lets me move the sweet spot around. It's like a bendy, you can set it wherever you want. So this is awesome. The 50mm, I think is gonna be perfect. The cool thing about the Sweet 50 is it just has a nice kind of diffused edges, but the center spot is really, really nice and sharp. And it changes depending on what aperture you use. So if you use a really large aperture, you have a smaller sweet spot of focus. And if you use a smaller aperture, it kind of changes your sweet spot. So we'll kind of play with that to figure out how much we need in focus, how much we need out of focus once we get the rider on the bike. So I think they're getting ready to unload.
The crew helped harness me in so I wouldn't fall out of the truck, but more importantly, so I wouldn't drop a lens. Always ensure your rigging is tight. I would be manually focusing as I hung out of the back and bounced down the road. We used 2 speed lights on a pole held up behind me in the truck to open up the cross shadows on her face. And of course, don't try this at home. Bree was a great rider, but following close behind a fast-moving vehicle is nerve-wracking for anyone on a bike.
I'm scared. I don't know what's coming. Yeah, just go slow. I won't be as scared. Sorry.
The Sweet 50 has gradually blurring edges, beautifully complementing the motion feel I was going for. Using it in a Composer Pro body gave me the ability to move the sweet spot of focus around the frame wherever I needed it. Focusing while bouncing around did prove to be a challenge, so I would trim my focus in and out a bit to make sure I had the detail I needed. I also varied my shutter speed to give the background different amounts of blur. For our final shot, we chased the setting sun out to a beautiful viewpoint to grab a portrait of her on the bike. With the sun setting behind her, we needed a soft, diffused light on her face to balance out the exposure. I reduced my ambient exposure by about 1.5 stops to darken the sky, and then I used a Lunagrip with a speed light as my main light. I used a silver reflector for a little fill, and my neutral density filter on camera to make sure I could get as much power out of my flash as possible. I used both the Twist 60 and the Velvet 85 to give me different perspectives and looks. The Lensbaby turned out to be the perfect choice of lens for this shoot. We were able to capture the dream-like mood that a rider picking up their custom bike for the first time would be in. While it was a bit challenging to use on the action shots, the results were worth it, and it gave me inspiration and ideas for future sessions. Capturing energy and emotion is always a challenge for a photographer, and the Lensbaby just gives me one more powerful tool to help express that. There's nothing better than leaving a photo shoot and you're already excited about the next one.